Good afternoon, everyone. It's an honor to be here. As Arthur was saying, I am the honor for 2.5 years to be the CEO of Ignitis Renewable. And behind every person joining a company, there's always a history. There's a goal. And some people might wonder why a bunch of middle-aged guys from Western Europe decided to join Ignitis. It's because I think the Ignitis of today and the Ignitis of the future doesn't have a lot to do with what a lot of people think. So the energy transformation, I mean, there's not a lot of things to say about energy transformation. I mean, the fight against climate change is probably the fight of a generation. It's probably the biggest challenge economically and society-wise that we have ever seen. A lot of people are underestimating it. Nobody is asking themselves question, where is energy coming from? 90% of the people, it comes from the plug in the wall, and it's there all the time, and it has to be cheap. That's usually as much as they want to think about it. And don't cut me the basketball final of Zalgiris because there is no wind. So otherwise we're fired. But basically that's as much questions as they ask themselves. You should do one day maybe an exercise, and you have nice calculators of internet. Look at every product you have in your life, from a yogurt to your socks, to anything you use, and you can evaluate the percentage of the cost of energy into it. And good luck to find anything that works without energy. Even if you buy a radishu, the horseradish, or you buy a yogurt, it's between 8 and 10%. And try to explain me how digitalization works without energy. And that energy, for the last almost 200 years, it has been made with fossil origin. Gas, wood is fossil, coal is fossil. All those products have a fossil origin. And we've decided last year, not us, Lithuania, but mankind has decided in its majority to walk away from fossil fuel. The wording, and most of you are lawyers, if I'm correct, the wording might seem soft, but getting 200 countries to agree on phase out of fossil is already an incredible step. To get companies like Aramco and Saudi Arabia to sign off on this is already something. So what does Ignitis do? What is our role into it? It's quite easy. We are historically the, I would say, national energy provider of Lithuania, and in the past probably the only one. But with the change in the energy market, the EU regulations, we're by far not the only one. The market is becoming commercial, the market is becoming deregulated, the market is becoming competitive, and the origin of the energy is also changing. So we are active in currently 5 countries, and you can see with the little icons what we do in each country. But there is one directing line behind all this, is that we've decided as Ignitis to become a totally green company. We've decided to completely step out of fossil, to reach net zero in the 40s, I will say. If it's up to me, I would say 40, but I need the money to be able to do that. So as quickly as possible. And we've also decided to capitalize on the strength of the group. That means to be vertically integrated. Our specialty will be to deliver 24/7 guaranteed green energy. That's our value proposition. That's where we will be different than the others. Now, in order to do that, you need all the technologies. Don't want to turn the knife in the wound, but last year, if you're interested in energy, you've seen all those discussions in Lithuania. Why not more solar? It's cheap. Why not more this? Why not more that? Why are we doing this? Why are we doing that? A lot of people, as I say, are not asking themselves the right question. The target is to have energy 24/7. And 1 kilowatt hour is not 1 kilowatt hour. A kilowatt hour produced on a Sunday at 12:15 in summer doesn't have the same value as a megawatt hour produced just the day before Christmas at 1900 when everybody has got everything turned on. It is not the same value. Energy-wise, it's the same value. Commercially-wise, it's not the same. We do not need 10 gigawatt of solar in July when everybody is outside making barbecues. So there are reasons to have the right energy mix. And each source of energy has a different generation profile. And it's really, really a piece of art to manage to have the right balance in order to guarantee you affordable green energy all year long. So there will be that melange of energy, and I think we're doing quite okay for the moment. We were not the first to start. We were not the last. But I can tell you that since 22, we've accelerated incredibly the speed of our transition towards green. We have a decent pipeline, 7 gigawatt. Of course, renewable projects, for the ones who are interested in permitting, it's not because you have a gigawatt of project that you will have a gigawatt at the end of the permitting. And there are some cleanup being done during the permitting process. So you always need to relativize a 7 gigawatt process. Portfolio gives you maybe 4 to 5 gigawatt at the end. You can see the different type of generation, and you can see the different geographies. And you see, and it's quite important at the end, a percentage of generation and flexibility. Why flexibility? Because we don't control when there's wind, and we don't control when there's sun. But there are technical solutions in order to make sure that you will still have energy all the time. And the system has not been designed for that. And look at the investments that we're going to make. The energy transition, not only for Ignitis, but for the region, for the country, is the largest wave of infrastructure investment that we've ever seen. And it's not only valid for us, it's valid across all Europe. The amount of money that needs to be mobilized to realize the energy transition is tremendous. The difference is, in renewables and in all form of flexibility, it's capex upfront, but afterwards, you have very low running cost. Okay? There are elections. Make sure you don't vote for those who want to tax wind and sun. Okay? For the moment, it's still free. So this, and I don't have any ownership of those slides. Those slides are not coming from me. They are actually from the energy transformation system strategy. But it's important. If you've been following this, if you've been following the media, last week, the government validated a new energy strategy. They voted it in the government. Now it will have, if I understand your system correctly, to go through SEMAS, correct? And then it will be commented, debated, and it will be anchored in the new energy law. But what are the main targets? It's the energy independence. I mean, know that for Lithuanian, and it's maybe linked a little bit for history, you have 2 independence days. Maybe we will have a third one when we will be energy independent. But energy independence is very high on the agenda. It's to be able to be self-sustaining, and you have chances compared to a lot of other countries. You have enough available natural resources compared to your energy usage to be self-sufficient. There are countries in Europe that don't have that choice and don't have that chance. Okay? So 100% decarbonization, it's not only Lithuania, it's all Europe. Basically, the target is net zero by 2050, and Lithuania is aligning with that. Let's be honest, if we really want, we can be a lot faster than that. Become an energy exporter. When I arrived in Lithuania, and that's not a long time ago, we were percentage-wise the largest energy importer in Europe. We were importing, for historical reasons, up to 75% of our energy. And it was fun to see that in the last 2 years, we've had not only a couple of days ago, we've had the first hours which were almost fully covered by sun power in Lithuania, and we've had the first day covered by 100% renewable, I think in March. So you see it's coming. It's just a matter, how are we going to accommodate it, and how are we going to shape the law so that it allows for this to happen? Because today, and I'm not the biggest specialist, there's a lot of things in your energy law which are reminiscence of the past. There's a lot of regulation which are reminiscence of the past. There are no possibility of unlimited international energy exchanges because the infrastructure doesn't foresee it, but it will be necessary in the future. All those things are things that will have to be done by the current generation of energy lawyers in the country, because this has to be in place by 2030. And we want to become an energy exporter. We want to transform the green transformation in an industrial growth. Of course, you need to choose correctly in what you invest. If we are a country with a lot of renewables, and if we are a country with a lot of intermittency, we will have big variations of power prices. So you need to choose the right people. In the past, you heard very often, oh, we should attract data centers. Everybody has heard that. Not sure we're the right country for that. A data center, they want base load, which is something we're not going to have a lot in the future. They want base load, they want security of supply, and actually, we're probably not the right country to relocate to. But there is a huge list of other things which can be coupled to flexibility, and where we will become one of the very interesting countries to put those industries in. And then, of course, the energy cost and availability. Nobody wants to jeopardize the economical future of its country by investing in the wrong technologies and ending up having ridiculous prices for energy. So this is how the energy people which are measuring the output, so the people on the grid, are currently forecasting the situation where we are. As you can see, that's when the nuclear power plant was turned down, and that's when Lithuania became that huge importer. And here you can see there's an increase in demand, and at the same time we are trying that our generation line is following that increase in demand. That increase in demand, it comes from a lot of new regulations that you all know. It's regulations for electric vehicles, it's regulation for construction specifications. Today you cannot put anything you want to build a house. You need to have those energy certificates, and it implies certain technology choices, and this will drive a demand for electricity. And then you see which ramp up we want to do. And we are saying that by 2030, we are reaching that cross point. The cross point where Lithuania will produce on a yearly basis as much energy as it consumes. And from that point on, we're starting to produce more than we consume, and that's exactly when we are going to start being able to provide 24/7 that green energy, and it will increase. Now, how do we make sure that that works? Here are the split targets. They say 2030 we need to build onshore wind. Onshore wind, the current targets, they lie at about 4.5 gigawatt, 5 gigawatt to be installed by 2030. And the grid reservation are showing that this is technically possible. Now, on the other side, you need to have the regulatory framework that allows to do that. You need to have maybe a remuneration system that changes. You need to have a lot of things implemented. You see the new market design, read the new market design, compare it to what is being done in Lithuania, you will see some discrepancy. A lot of people have also underestimated what the synchronization to Western Europe means. They think, oh, it's just a change in balancing regime, which is going to 15 minutes. No, it means that a lot of rules from which we had exemptions will start to apply for us. That will completely reshape our energy landscape. So a lot of onshore, offshore, and Timmy will come just after me to explain you the challenges of offshore. Solar PV, and solar PV in Lithuania, the focus has been put recently on those prosumers. So it's basically enabling people to produce their own energy and store it for free. Battery, because of managing that flexibility, we will need to have some batteries. I mean, you're lawyers, so I won't go too deep in the technique. Sorry, that's an easy one. But we were in a world, the people who do energy know that you need inertia on a system. And inertia is usually produced by big spinning mass, a big generator which is running, a big steam turbine. We're not going to have any of that in Lithuania. Or if you look at the Baltic, the proportion of that network inertia compared to what we will consume is very low. So we will go to a new form of digital inertia. And there are different technologies how to do it. But one of the quick fix is batteries. And so there will be a huge amount of batteries being installed in the Baltic States. But how are those services being procured? It doesn't stand in the law. How are the auctions being organized? Nobody knows. You have 3 TSOs, you ask them how they want to proceed. They look at you with a smile, they don't know themselves. So there's a lot of things that need to be done. And we also need interconnection. Why do we need interconnection? And ask that question to another guy after. He's called Koslovas. Ask him the question. There are decorrelation of weather types. And if you are connected with the right countries, and there are big initiatives across Europe to connect people with different weather systems, you will be able, on different periods of the year with different technologies, to equalize some gaps into the generation in your own country. That only works if you have enough interconnection and a so-called meshed grid across Europe. So we will need those enhanced interconnection, and just for principles of geography, we have existing cable with Finland, and I'm talking as the Baltic region. We have a cable to Sweden, but our entry to Western Europe, that's definitely Poland. And so that connection needs to be enhanced. And this is a particularity in Lithuania. If you look a little bit at the economy of the 3 Baltic states, the first country that will have an H2 economy, a nitrogen economy, will be Lithuania, just because we have the demand. We have 2 very large hydrogen consumers in the country. They have to comply with the red directives, so they have that ramp up of percentages of green. That's a huge advantage for us against our Latvian and Estonian neighbors. If they want to create an H2 economy, they have first to create the need. We have the need. We need to take that advantage, serve that need, but on top of it, create an attraction for new people to come. If we have an abundance of that product coupled with an abundance of cheap, affordable energy, we will attract new people to Lithuania. We will create a new economy. By 2040, we're pushing all that big wall ahead of us, and we would like to build that energy hub. That's the little, there's a pointer here? Yes, that's that little thing there in the water. As I said, we are the only ones who have that existing need for H2. By having that existing need for H2, we will have a need to import energy, affordable energy, when there is a lot of it, convert it in something else. So we have an opportunity to become the gateway to Western Europe. This is a beautiful project. If that thing realizes, forget all infrastructure projects you ever heard talked about in the Baltic. They will look like dwarfs compared to this. Okay? Rail Baltica will feel like a dawn in the foot compared to this. So if you want a challenge, that's one. And then, of course, that hub includes pipeline connections. It includes interconnections to biggest consumers. Biggest consumers, people who can't auto-supply. The easiest one, it's here. Small countries, Denmark, it's easy. The Scandinavian country, it's easy. But Germany, if they want to maintain a certain level of industrial activity, even if you consider they might lose 20% of their current economy, you say, okay, the steel will move away, some cement things, some energy-intensive stuff, aluminium, copper, it might move away, even accounting for 20% reduction. They still need 5 times the energy or 4 times the energy they're consuming today. That's just mathematics. It's conversion of their industry consumption, of their primary energy into their needs. They can't produce it. Their country is not that big compared to the fact that they are 80 million. Even if their population reduces, they will stay at 75 million. Make the ratio of their surface and their population and your surface and your population, you'll see how lucky you are. So they have a problem. They don't have enough resources. They don't have enough space to auto-supply. Therefore, they will be demanding energy. They've dreamed in the past, and during the crisis of Ukraine in 22, when it started, you saw Germans running around the world and signing contracts with everybody, Chile, Namibia, Benin, I don't know who, about, I'm going to import hydrogen from your place, until they realized that technically it's not easy. And they've realized now that it's easier to have the countries in Europe who have an oversupply supplying them than going to Chile. So their plans are changing, their development plans, their interconnection, their pipeline plans are changing, and we are going to see a second wave of European collaboration in order to eliminate the fossil coming from the east. And 2050, that's the real big fun. That's basically enhancing all that in order to remove all remaining and hard to abate part of the economy. Now, these analyses how to create the hub. You can see some conversions of energy needs of the Baltics into gigawatts. So they basically have taken the calories, then the gigajoule that we need, and they've converted them into energy equivalent, and then they've divided that by amounts of production, and then they've said, that's about what we need. That's what those numbers mean. Don't be too fixated on those numbers. There's a lot of percentage of chance they are wrong. But it's just to give people an idea of which direction are we going. And when I was telling you a wave of investment like you've never seen, look at that number. That's the amount of money that needs to be pumped in the Baltic economies in order to achieve targets which are not a dream or a utopia. Targets which are dictated or regulated and which are committed to by all the countries of Europe. And this is for us. And that's about the size of our economy compared to the whole of Europe. Multiply that by the needs of the whole continent, and this is the challenge that we are facing as a group of Europeans if we want our energy independence. So, one last thing. The easy factor when you think about it, okay, and that's just simplified mathematics. If you look at the energy consumption of a country like ours, you put into it the eating, you put into it our transport, etc., you can easily, without computing in any growth of economy, you can convert today's consumption by a factor of about 3 to 4, depending on the intensivity of your economy, to see your primary energy needs. So basically, it means that any decent utility that does its work correctly should multiply its size by 3 or 4 in the years to come. So let's see you again in 20 years. And if Ignitis is 4 times bigger, we've done a decent job. Thank you.
So, Thierry, you have a few spare minutes for a few questions, if we have any. Please raise your hand, okay?
Don't give him the mic.
Of course. Hello, Paul Zapolski, TGS Baltic. Thank you, Thierry, for this excellent presentation. So just one short question maybe about, as we know, Ignitis is stepping into Estonia also for offshore wind. How do you assess the perspective there, knowing that they have certain issues with the grid, and they have such a good grid as we do? So
Correct.
what are you planning to do there, and what's the potential there?
The potential is twofold. Estonia has announced a CFD tender for offshore. The consultation is starting next week. So drafts are circulating, but it's next week that they do the mechanism of the tender, and it's 4 terawatt hours. So that's about 1 gigawatt. That's as much as Ellering can absorb. For the time being, until a new 20-year development plan, we will call it. That's what is included in the 10-year network development plan. It's 1 gig. For the rest, Estonia has tried to be a little bit planning ahead, and they are a little bit ahead of Lithuania in terms of planning interconnection. So they are a little bit ahead of us in their interconnection with Germany, and they have this so-called Baltic Wind Connector, which is a 2 gigawatt connection between the island of Saaremaa and the island of Rügen in Germany. And according to the plans, should be ready around 2035, so with time. But the tender that they are making now in end of 25, 26 for CFD offshore is for a project to be delivered in 33. So their plan is 33 own consumption Estonia via CFD, 35 export product. Now, as Ignitis, with our partner CIP, we have chosen projects which allow us to play on both. We've positioned ourselves exactly between the Ellering connection point and the Saaremaa Island. So we're not betting on one or the other, we're betting on both.
Thank you. Thank you, Thierry.